Ausgefeilte Technik, komfortable Bedienung, perfekte Hitze und vor allem 100% echter Grillgeschmack. Das alles macht Weber Gasgrills zu wahren Champions. Kaufe bis zum 19. Mai deinen Gasgrill von Weber und du bekommst ein Weber Grill Champion Shirt mit deinem Namen gratis dazu. Nur bei teilnehmenden Händlern. Mehr auf weber.com. Weber for life.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Chrism, and I would like to welcome you to this edition of our ongoing Blog Talk radio program about your Kundalini and the many different ways and experiences that having Kundalini can affect a person. So I'd just like to welcome everybody to the program. I'd like to welcome everybody who's in the chat room right now and all the people that are going to be logging into this program from the archives. I'd like to welcome everybody here and also people who are calling in, like Rosemary, Santara, Elizabeth, and other folks. So hello, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and bring Santara on board real quick right here. Hello, Santara.
Hi, Chrism. Hello, Chrism.
Hey, is the sound coming through okay?
Yeah, very, very good, actually.
And everybody in the
Maybe
chat room, we need to check with the chat room there, get a chat room check. Here we are. Okay.
No one typing. Come on, guys.
Oh, there you go.
Phil's typing.
Okay, now you might want to back off of that microphone a little bit because you're over amplified, Santara. Can you?
Let me check. How's this testing, Chrism?
Much better, my dear, much better. Okay, and do you have any announcements that you'd like to make today?
Well, I can make the announcement about the seminar, Chrism, that's happening in Berlin. Shall I do that now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that then. So Chrism is coming to Berlin at the beginning of September to give a Kundalini Awakening seminar. So it's happening on September the 3rd, which is a Saturday, and September the 4th. And everybody who lives in Europe is welcome. We already have many people joining us, and there is room for others to come. Manisha is the lady who is organizing this wonderful event, and she's organizing it with the help of Sotanter. And so if you would like to come, if you would like to hear more information, please give Manisha an email, or you can contact her on Facebook. Her email address is, and it's coming up now, it is Manisha, MANEESHA @posteo.de. That's MANEESHA @posteo.de. And she will have a conversation with you there and can fill you in on all the things you need to do to get there. So we have only, is it a week, 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, and Chrism will be with us in Europe. So I would encourage everybody who's listening to that, if you have an opportunity here to come, please do come. Would love to meet you there. And the other announcement I would like to make is to give the website address that you can go to if you would like to make a contribution, a donation to the work that Chrism does on the many, many different places that he does this work. The address is www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com. And, you know, the donations that are received are very gratefully received. They are essential, really, in continuing this work and are really all donations. Somebody asked me recently if a small donation was okay. A small donation is very, very welcome. Many small donations will add up. So if you're in a position to donate, please feel free to donate. Don't feel that your donation is too small. Nothing is too small. Everything helps and contributes. And by donating, you are indeed helping many, many people, because through these donations, Chrism is able to continue to work full-time doing this work. And so we are all very grateful for the donations received. So that's www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com and the donate button, and it's very easy to follow the instructions after that. Those are my two announcements, Chrism.
Thank you, Santara. And I'd also like to say that for the seminar in Berlin, anybody that from anywhere in the world is welcome to come to the seminar in Berlin. If you're living in the States and you want to fly over to Germany or Canada or South America or Africa or anywhere in Asia, anywhere in the world, you're welcome to come to this Berlin seminar. And I would encourage anybody that has an interest in the Kundalini and in learning how to navigate some of these waters within the Kundalini to come to this seminar and to contact Manisha at the web address that Santara suggested. You can also contact me, Chrism, at kfireforall@yahoo.com. That's KFIREFORALL@yahoo.com, and I'd be happy to give you Manisha's email address. So, thank you very much, Santara. Thank you very much. Okay, and moving in here. Okay, so one thing that I think it's very important to bring up is that you have the capability with the Kundalini to see things that others do not see. It's very important that you don't. Oh, really? We're having looks like we might be having a sound problem. Let's see.
I sent a text to that person. I sent a text, Chrism, and suggest that they go and log in again. It's probably just that one person.
Thank you.
I would suggest continue. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, so, lots of typing going on now. Sound is good. Okay, very good. Everything. Oh, very good. Thank you, Mary Jean. Thank you, Emma. So you can see things that other people cannot see with regards to the Kundalini. You can also hear things that other people cannot hear. You'll be able to hear the Na'ad, or what is also referred to as the Nada, N-A-D-A, which are extremely high frequencies and can also be associated with some celestial music. That is music that just comes from we'll just have to say, an otherworldly source that is very high in spirituality. It's very, very profound to hear the celestialized music. The other things that you can see, of course, you could see people that have passed away, entities that have never had a body that come in all shapes and sizes. But you can also see the little people, and it's the little people that can also give a person quite a start. The most important thing really in this is to realize that, number one, you're not crazy. Number two, not everybody's going to see these things, and so you don't really want to talk to people about this. Certainly not a medical professional or a psychoanalyst or a counselor. I mean, they're just going to start whipping out the SSRIs faster than you could say SSRI. I can only imagine the look on their inner face as if somebody says, "Oh yeah, I've been seeing elves and they've been showing me how to do this or that," and that therapist's inner eye is going to open wide and reach right for that Merck manual. And what kind of tranquilizer can we give you today, my friend who is seeing the elves? And so, the fact of the matter is that these creatures do exist. They may exist outside of the limited interactions that we have with this world. And we basically have the interactions of 6 senses. And it's not just 5. Even people that aren't awakened have intuition. And intuition is part of a sixth sense that people can participate with. And so, but even just with six senses, it's a very, very, very limited experience with regards to what is truly around us. We are given these six senses just in a way to focus us in what it is we're doing, to focus us in a direction of discipline, a direction of we have others around us, so we don't feel alone. Because, you know, if you're the only one in the room with six senses and everybody else has 600, well, you're going to feel kind of left out. And we do not have that problem here, although we have many people that are in different areas of spiritual and karmic development, but we all share specific commonalities like these 5 and 6 senses. The fact that we all eat, that we all drink water, that we all breathe this air here, that we are all walking on the land, or we're on this world in a very specific format. It's very important for people to understand that even within the 6 senses that you have and everything that you can perceive with those 6 senses, there's a lot more there than what your 6 senses will perceive. And once again, for people that are tuning in a little late, the 6th sense that I'm ascribing to people would be an intuitive sense, which isn't strictly that of the physical processing of information, but it's intuitive. It's that idea that oh gosh, I feel like I'm being hunted, or oh gosh, somebody's staring at me while I'm bathing here in this lake. That type of intuitive sense. Everybody has access to those types of things, whether they realize it or not. And so it's very important for people to understand that. Now, within the Kundalini, you have an expanded level of sensorial input. And so, of course, you can see these things and you can participate with these things, whereas other people who don't have the Kundalini activated or awakened within them cannot do. You cannot do this. And not everybody, even within the Kundalini, will be able to do these types of things either. And that's also a very, very, very purposeful type of application of the Kundalini upon the individual. It's just not time for that individual to participate in this level of knowledge or of experience. A person needs to burn karma first. A person needs to have a certain level of understanding without fear of what can happen. And, let me tell you, when you see, an entity or an elf or, these types of creatures, it can really, really blow your mind. I've seen it drive people crazy. They can see these things that nobody else in their family, friends, business, nobody else in their world can see, and yet they're seeing it clear as day. And it just makes them feel like they're mentally incompetent, or that they need to go to a psychologist or an MD or something like that. And all the psychologist or MD is going to do is just going to tranquilize them with as many heavy and sedateful drugs as they can, because they don't know how to. They call this schizophrenia. This would be borderline schizophrenia, things of this nature, or even full-on schizophrenia if you're actually seeing and talking with an entity that nobody else can hear or see. And so it's very important for you not to feel the need, even though you will, not to feel the need to share your experiences of a Kundalini nature with your family or a healthcare practitioner or job or a stranger on the street. I mean, unless people have this experience with the Kundalini, it's very, very, very difficult to understand and to manifest levels of shared agreement between people that are seeing it, people who aren't seeing it, or are hearing it or aren't hearing it, or all feeling it. You can have tactile things like you can have a pressure on your heart, feeling pressed on the heart, and as if you're being pressed down, or you can have your head forcefully pressed downward in a position of, say, extreme respect, or in a position of prayerful reverence. the Kundalini will come along and just force your head. And sometimes she'll force your head all the way to the floor. Very important for people to understand that, hey, this is normal, this is natural. But if you go to mundane society and say, yeah, my head got forced to the floor and I was like kissing this guy's foot, and they just have no reference point for that, and it's just not going to work well for you or for them, because typically it will scare the heck out of them. They'll think their friend of all these years has finally gone off the deep end, or they'll just think that you're in some sort of a cult and that you're having some sort of psychological experience that is inexplainable to most people. So it's important for you not to share. I work on various groups, as Santara mentioned, and on some of these groups, people are asking about, well, who can I talk to about this? What can I, who is safe to say this? And I'd say mostly nobody, except for people that for a fact have the Kundalini, have some sort of a reference point for it, or are experiencing it themselves, because nobody else is going to get it. Nobody else will understand you. They might nod their head in agreement, oh, yeah, Chrism. Oh, you do. You hear them, too. Oh, and you see them. What are they telling you, Mr. Chrism? That's basically the attitude that you're going to get from folks. What are they telling you, Mr. Chrism, as they dial 911 on their other phone? So you want to be very, very careful with that, and you want to be very, very, very astute in who you trust with regards to the information about the Kundalini experience that you may be having. Very important that you do this. Other manifestations that you really don't want to share are certainly the spoken manifestations, those audio manifestations of instructions, or if you have an entity infestation, the level of malevolence, or the negative-oriented, fearful-based conversations that can occur with that. You don't need to tell them about that either, although I can understand that would scare a person, and they would want to have that conversation with somebody. And they would want to have the luxury of a diagnosis that says, oh, Mr. Chrism, well, you just got schizophrenia, and we have this good old drug over here just going to knock that stuff right on its little patootie. You'll never hear that stuff again, and so they'll feed you a drug, and they'll try to blind the skill that the Kundalini is giving you. All of these symptoms are a blessing of Kundalini grace. They're not to be gotten rid of. You're not sick. You're not ill. You're actually expanding into a greater level of humanity, of the human expression on this world. You're being allowed to unlock a lot more senses than just 5 or 6. A lot more. And this is very important for your development. So you don't want to try to go to a healthcare practitioner and have them shut that down. You don't try to use mundane humanity and the hubris of mundane humanity to try to shut down a gift that comes directly from divinity or God. You don't want to push God's hand off of your shoulder, that's giving you these great, great gifts, even though they may be scary because you don't know much about it at the time. You just need to trust. You need to trust in the Kundalini, trust in divinity, trust in God, trust that you're okay, that you're thinking clearly, that you can drive a car clearly. You're not an irresponsible individual. You're not strung out on some sort of psychotropic drugs. You're not you're not chemically imbalanced. It's very important for the individual to understand that they are sane and safe, but they are having a Kundalini experience. And it's going to be difficult. I know that not talking about it with people can be very, very, very difficult for an individual, because that's the first thing that people want to do. They want to share their experience, especially some of these wild super paranormal experiences that the Kundalini can bring. Now, before I get too lost in this, I would like to offer up the call-in number if people would like to call in. And the call-in number is area code 347 and then 934-0026. That's New York area code 347-934-0026. Feel free to call in. Feel free to ask a question. Yes, Spiritual 23, you can ask something about your Kundalini, and I'll address that here on the air as well. In the meantime, however, I am going to bring Her Holiness Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez on board. And hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. Hello.
Hello. So,
Hello.
how do you feel about that teaching you sent me the other day?
Well, I've been getting that all week. I feel, I thought more today about because I'm in so much pain from my fall and the cracked ribs and all that, and there's really, no matter what I do, I'm in pain. There's no getting away from that. And so along with the teaching about, and I'll just say the teaching that I was getting was about feeling things deeply and sharing things from
emotional authenticity.
Exactly, and sharing things from a deep, emotional, authentic place, because if it's not relatable to other people, if it's not authentic, and if you're not sharing the depth of the emotion that you're feeling. But I feel like I got another just clarity today, feeling that maybe that's why I'm supposed to be feeling this deep physical pain right now, because it's talking to me all about feeling things deeply, no matter what it is. If you love deeply. If you're speaking from the emotional body, go deep, dig deeply into that. If you're in physical pain, feel that pain. Don't try to cover it up or hide from it, it has to be manageable, but it's okay to feel that. I'm feeling like I need to feel that for whatever reason right now, and maybe it is because you can't really relate to other people who are in physical pain if you've never had physical pain. If you are trying to tell somebody something about their emotional, you're trying to help someone, and you've never felt that emotional pain, how do you relate and help them if you have not ever had any type of something that, and we've all had things in our lives that bring us deep pain in different areas. And so I think my Kundalini, that's what she's talking to me about, is don't try to, yes, you've worked through, say, abuse from your childhood or what have you, but don't be afraid to go there. When you're helping other people, be honest. Go ahead and say and talk about it from your heart, always from your heart. And I think that's what the teaching was mainly about, is always go deep into whatever it is so that you can feel it and share it when it's appropriate, since today's about sharing with non-Kundalini people. But if you're sharing with someone that you're trying to help in any way, they don't have to be Kundalini awakened to help them with an emotional or physical and so that was it. And she was just relating to me, don't just come from an intellectual thing, because then they can only relate through an intellectual, through the mental mirror. If it's not from a deep, emotional, heartfelt love place, they're just going to see words or hear words. They're not going to relate to that.
Right. Well, then you can also expand that into greater areas of authenticity, of truth. And who you are, how you are, why you are, what you are, where you are.
Yeah.
It's very important. This leads us to the whole idea of truth and how do we express our truth? How do we express our truth as far what we're doing, what kind of a job, what kind of a career that we have? Are we ashamed? Are we a janitor, and so we're ashamed of being a janitor, and so we lie, or we say, I'm a sanitation technician. I've been a janitor. I know what that's all about. I've run those buffing machines, down the halls and emptied the trash cans and cleaned the toilets and cleaned the urinals and replaced the toilet paper, all of that stuff. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. I always thank those people when I see them because they do a really important job, let me tell you. Really important job. Just imagine not having some of those supplies when you're, on the throne and you're in need. And so are you authentic with what you're doing in order to survive on this world and taking, your ego out of the deal because, within the Kundalini, the ego is just pulling you back into mundane processes of self-evaluation that has some sort of an aspect of self-aggrandizement connected to it. A self-aggrandizement meaning, validation of the ego. Oh, hey, everybody, look at me. Or, oh, hey, everybody, see how beautiful I am. Or how young I look. Or, how strong I am. Or how, whatever I am. Super spiritual, Master Chrism, Kundalini, this or that. That's all the ego stuff. You don't need that. You don't need that at all. And it's very important for people to live the authenticity of their emotions, how you're feeling. This is what I think you were touching on in that post. And authenticity, is truth, the authentic truth of who you are, why you are, where you are, what you're doing. That's very, very important for you to be able to come to terms with that.
Yeah.
Not everybody ends up in the lifestyle or the job or the career that they would want to have. They don't. Not everybody has that availability. And even with the Kundalini will stick you in a metaphysical bookstore. She will stick you as a janitor in a shop. She will put you as a waiter or waitress in a restaurant, just so you can learn some of the basic tenets of what it is to be a Kundalini chosen person inside a world that is run by the entity. By the ego. By the ego. I'm getting some feedback here. I hope this isn't affecting the sound quality. So Mary Jean or Emma or Lana Seeker, Vincent, Phil, Cole, hopefully the sound is still coming cleanly through to you at this time. And appreciate a little bit of typing there. Let's see if that's happening. Thank you, Emma. It's okay. All right. It's all. Thank you. You guys can hear me. All right. Just so everybody, if anybody who's tuning into this program for the first time, these are virtual studios. And in these virtual studios, we don't have the capability of doing a sound check beforehand. Certainly not with the chat room or with, other people that like call-ins or whatnot. And so we do these little sound checks along the way just to make sure that one, I'm not talking to the air, and two, people are actually being able to hear something of what is occurring. And I'd like to encourage anybody that's in the chat room to feel free to ask a question and or to say hi, how are you to everybody there. And I want to thank you, Elizabeth. Now, do you or Lorania have more to add with that?
No, I think that's it in a nutshell. Don't be afraid to show and be who you authentically are. Right.
And that's so huge. When you have the Kundalini, The Kundalini will always propel you towards truth. Always. It will never propel you towards a lie. If you are propelled towards a lie, that is either an entity or your ego. It will not be the Kundalini. And I mean a lie, lie about, what kind of job you have. It's like, oh, well, I'm I'm a sanitation engineer, AKA a janitor. So it's important for people to be able to live their truth, not to live the truth of the many, many, many temptations that are out there that are supported by anti-Kundalini forces, such as entities and whatnot, and the ego. It's important to live from that level of authenticity. And I want to thank Elizabeth and Laranya for providing us with that understanding, with that teaching. And so thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, putting you into the Shiva Blue. And Dobby100 says, hey, Chrism, I wanted to know, when you start to see spirit, what should you do? 1, run. 2, engage. Or, and I presume there's a 3 coming up somewhere, somehow. No, you shouldn't run. And no, you shouldn't necessarily engage. Although seeing them, if you're staring at them, seeing at them, there's an unspoken contract that is being developed. And number 3, Dobby suggests, would be fight. And fighting doesn't really get you anywhere with an energetic consciousness. Running won't get you there either. It's not like they can't follow you. Engage, no. I would just say I would add a number 4 to that, Dobby, and I would say ignore it. Just ignore it. Don't worry about it. There's far more spiritual consciousness than there are physical behind the veil consciousness. They're a dime a dozen. They're not more powerful than you. Matter of fact, in many ways, they're much less powerful than you are. But they want to convince you that you're not powerful at all, so that they can kind of use you as a finger puppet, which happens quite often within the Kundalini for a certain amount of time. Hopefully, the Kundalini individual begins to understand that. But that doesn't always, that's not always the case. A lot of people have to have that possession for a little bit of time before they realize. The Kundalini either tells them, or they find a teacher or whatever, they realize that they don't have to be doing any of these things. They don't have to give in to such negative treatment. And typically the treatment by spiritual life forms can be very, very negative. And even, yes, and I was saying this to a student the other day, it can be very positive as well. But for Kundalini people, there tends to be more of a run towards corruption, which I've spoken probably ad nauseum about on these programs here on the Blog Talk Radio. So I won't go too far into that right now. But you shouldn't run, Dobby, and you shouldn't engage, and you don't need to fight. The best way to, if you're being given a programming like, oh, Dobby, feel terrible about yourself, or some sort of a negative-based program, well, you just turn that right around and say to yourself, Dobby, I'm going to feel very positive about myself. So the best way to fight, per se, a spiritual contact is not to do or not to accept the programming that's being pushed your way, typically from a telepathic standpoint. And that's a little bit harder to understand because people are not used to being attacked on a telepathic standpoint. They think that, oh my gosh, my thoughts are my own and my thoughts are inviolable and nobody can violate my thinking and nobody can. Well, I got news for you, folks. Telepathy is telepathy, and telepathy can be pushed at an individual. It happens all the time with Kundalini people. So if they, if the consciousness that is attacking you wants, knows that you don't know about any of this stuff, then it will typically come forward and say, Mr. Chrism, I am God. thou art my child, and thou wilt do as I say to do, because I am the Lord thy God. Seriously, no joke. This happens. This happens. And so it's just a bullshit program that's being pushed at you, and you don't need to partake of it at all. At all. I don't care how biblical it sounds. I don't care if it's quoting, a red letter Bible, which is the words of Jesus only. I don't care. It's bullshit. And it's a program that is just seeking to trap you. And Dobby's responding, and he says, thanks. That's what happened today. Telepathics, I started getting bad thought, and immediately I know it was not me, so I wanted to fight. Well, Dobby, you just turn right around and you counter any kind of programming that was being pushed off onto you with the exact opposite. So if it says, feel bad about yourself, Dobby, then you say, Dobby, I'm going to feel good about myself. Or if it says something negative about somebody else, turn it around and say exactly the polar opposite. There's something positive about somebody else. So that's the way you do this. It's called the crucible of reversal. And you do that, and it can be very, very, very helpful to the individual. Telepathics, that is a point. That is a very, very strong leverage of communication between discarnate entities or entities that do not have a body and the individual that does have a body. It's very important to understand that telepathy all by itself can drive people crazy. I've had people come to me and who still come to me, and they're being totally attacked by entities, totally attacked. And, they have the Kundalini at the same time. And so I'm not allowed to just go over and wave my hand over them and say, entities be gone. I don't sell a can of entity be gone spray, because I understand that the entity within a Kundalini context has the ability to teach a person how not to be coerced, how not to be driven crazy. And you do that by first recognizing the Kundalini in you and recognizing your inherent sanity. You didn't get the Kundalini because you're a nut job. You got the Kundalini because you're on the brink of becoming semi-divine. And that is not necessarily for those people who are certifiably off their rocker, or having problems staying in a conscious mental zone that is shared by the rest of the society that they're in. No, the entity has the ability to give that person telepathy or to have telepathic communication with them. And the Kundalini allows this because other aspects of your Kundalini awakening nature will also begin to communicate with you, such as your Shakti Kundalini or the sacred feminine, such as the Shiva Kundalini or the sacred masculine, or the, and then if you're a Christian, then it would be Jesus sacred masculine and Mary sacred feminine, and if you're Buddha, it would be Buddha sacred masculine and one of the Taras as this, or Kuan Yin, as a sacred feminine. It just goes on and on and on throughout the many different societies of humanity that sacred male and sacred feminine take up an active role in the evolution, the spiritual evolution of an individual. And this active role typically is with the Kundalini. And so when you have the telepathy come to you, do not freak out. Do not run to the nearest phone, call your friend up and say, oh my God, I'm getting telepathic messages. Don't do that. Unless you know that they understand. Maybe they're getting telepathic messages too. But don't always believe these messages. Just because they come to you through telepathy doesn't mean that you're not being set up to be fooled. The earth is not the only predatorial environment. Some of the lower astral areas, which are those areas that combine with the earth, are very, very predatorial. And they will use your programming and your expectations and your understandings of life against you in order to take advantage of you in some way. In some way. This is what will happen. And it's very important for people to understand that they do not have to be afraid. They are not powerless. They can trust their Shakti. They don't need to trust the words that are coming into their head telepathically or the visions. You know, the visions of faces going by, different faces that nobody's ever really seen before. You have alien faces, you have animal faces, you have human faces, these types of things. They're not to be afraid. You don't need to be fearful of them. You can actually blow them up, which is what I do if it just gets to be, too many faces coming by, and I just blow the whole program up and go back to trying to sleep peacefully. Okay? And that's not hurting anybody. That's just clearing your space. And it's very important for you to be able to know how to clear your space. Let's talk about the monkey mind for a little bit here. Monkey mind is a total distraction of your focus and your concentration and what it is you're trying to do, whether it's devotion, whether it's meditation, whatever it is. The monkey mind comes in and distracts you. Begin thinking about everything that you can think of that will distract you. Or worse yet, the monkey mind will come in and tell you not to focus that type of stuff. It's more important. Let's just say, you're waiting for a phone call. How can you do this meditation when you're waiting for a phone call? The phone call could come at any time, and it could be really loud, and that might disturb you when you're meditating. They could give you a problem right there. Since you don't want it, and it just builds in its amplitude, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. The monkey mind can be relentless. So I want you to understand that, with the monkey mind, you just clear it. And one of the things that you can do is to just focus on your breathing. If you're trying to meditate, focus on your breathing. If you're doing devotion and it's, say, a mantra-based devotion, well, then you really, really focus on the mantra. Sometimes your ego will allow you to get angry. It will push anger at you because it won't like the fact that you're putting it on the shelf or that you're retraining it. And he or she, 7-year-old, he or she that's trying to call all the shots within you, won't like being put on the shelf. And so because you've been dialed into the ego for so long, for however many years you've been alive, you've been dialed into the ego, and that ego has a very, very strong and very well-oiled entrance and exit strategy to your emotional body. And that emotional body can be used, by the ego at will. This is how we get our likes and our dislikes, our hatreds, our joys, or, these types of things that we feel very, very strongly. And so, boom, all of a sudden you're pushed into a level of anger that you have no reason being in. You're just pushed in that level of anger by the ego because the ego does not like being denied its level or its position of control within you. The Kundalini is beginning to deny the ego its control, and so the ego is going to fight back against the Kundalini, against being controlled, by this holy force, which of course the ego is always going to lose, but it's the level of loss that the ego suffers that is what gives you, the individual, an amazingly painful event or just a slightly painful event. The more the ego struggles with the Kundalini, the more the ego begins to learn from the Kundalini, and this is very important for people to understand as well. The Kundalini teaches the ego, but it also wants you to teach your ego. Doesn't want you to kill it, doesn't want you to get rid of it, doesn't want you to do any of those things. The ego is a part of who we are, and it wants you to evolve your ego. Evolve your ego so that it's in support of the Kundalini. Evolve your ego so that it's in support of your special authenticity, as Elizabeth and Loranya were mentioning earlier. The more authentic you can be within your Kundalini awakening expression and experience, the much better it's going to be for you. Truth is truth. It may not be easy for those around you to hear some of the Kundalini truths that you have to say, which is why I say, hold your tongue. You don't need to be telling people that you're levitating every night before you go to bed. That's just going to scare them and make you think you're crazy. Nobody would believe that unless they actually saw it or experienced themselves. And typically the Kundalini isn't a, put your quarter in the machine and see the miracle happen. It's not a pay-for-play type of deal. Kundalini is not to be used as a carnival or television showpiece. It's much too powerful and far too sacred for that type of interaction with people. So if you see a guy go up on TV or go in front of a stage or something and say, yes, I'm Kundalini active, watch me levitate the orange, I would look for that little piece of fishing string holding up that orange if I were you. Because typically, and I won't be absolutist in this sense, but typically the Kundalini will not allow itself to be used in such entertainment-based venues for the entertainment of other people. It's kind of like the most sacred communion you could participate in, and throwing that up on the cartoon channel. It's just it wouldn't work well. And I mean the cartoon channel because most adults these days are just little kids in older bodies. And they like these programs that are basically, even though they say it's reality TV, I would say it's really not. It's more just an entertainment venue that is cheap and easy to do for the people putting it on. Not to say that you can't find information about the Kundalini from entertainment venues, such as the Kundalini movie put out by the director Nitin, Nitin, I forget his last, Nitin Adsul, A-D-S-U-L. If you go online and you go Kundalini movie, and then you look for the director Nitin Adsul, N-I-T-I-N, and then space, and then A-D-S-U-L. He's an ex-student of mine, and he asked me one day what he could do to give service into the populations. And I said, well, you're a movie director. Why don't you make a movie about Kundalini? And, well, he did. And it turned out to be a fairly decent movie, and it's helped a lot of people with that movie. So you can find authentic information within the entertainment venues that are offered today, but they're few and far between. You're not going to, it's hard to find that unless you know what to look for. So there is that. And once again, I would like to open the phone lines to questions. Area code 347-934-0026. And Santara, my lovely co-host, she put the link to the Seven Dots Media link on the chat room there. So those folks who are on the chat room can partake of that movie right now, or at least as soon as we're done. It is a documentary, and it's well done. It's well done. It's got a lot of differing viewpoints. So much so the viewpoints were so differing on there, so different that one of the speakers insisted that that Nitin put something in the movie that distanced themselves from the other speakers, and so you can see there's some controversial attitudes there, but hey, it worked out okay. So that's one thing for you to understand is the Kundalini will not promote itself in such a way as to be aggrandized through egocentric venues or through the egocentrism of the individual themselves. Okay, so know that, feel that, understand that. And I'm going to come on over here to Santara. And what do you think of that, Santara? How do you feel about the authentic self?
The authentic self is crucial, really, Chrism, to be truthful.
Crucial, you say.
Crucial. It's crucial, yeah. It's very, very important. I've been listening to your words there, and huge resonance in my heart. I can feel huge resonance, but I can speak very little of it at the moment. I'm having a lot of heart. I'm just finding it difficult at the moment to speak, Chrism.
Oh, quite all right, my dear, quite all right. And there's a caller down there on the bottom too, and I will go right on over to Rosemary. And Rosemary, how do you feel about this? And welcome to the program.
Thank you. Well, I don't hear voices or see things. I hear sounds sometimes in the house. I'll be up, and you know how the house is arranged, that it's all connected space-wise. So I could be upstairs and nobody's here, and it's like, first it would sound like there was a radio on down there. But it's sounds, and they're not particular, it's not saying anything, and I don't tell anybody that. And I don't know. How do you
feel about the authenticity of the self, Rosemary?
The authenticity of the self, I think.
Did you hear any of the program?
Yes, I'm listening. I'm listening to it all, and I've been thinking about, how to see it. I see it in myself as the motivating, the source of all of this, and when things come up and it's a bumpy road or something happens, then I know that what I thought was the authentic self in that expression, it wasn't it. And that's mostly how, as close as the experience that I have, I trust that that's happening in me. And I'm not going to do it, but I think if I ask people who know me well, they would say that they see something different about me than if they haven't seen me for a while or changes. But that authentic self, I think we learn very early how important that is, but it's not the right path to get to it, to have it awaken or arise or be present. I think we're still, I see myself still responding in patterned ways to things that sometimes I don't like, and I say, I can see that the instinct of it almost, of being trained in a certain way. I don't see that as my authentic self, but it acts like it sometimes.
That would be your ego then, right?
Mm-hmm. There's some expression of that, or some part of it, some psychological self, that we get so much education about that.
Which would be the ego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Rosemary. Thank you for your feedback and your input. So the ego can take many, many, many different voices within your head. It can be the pathetic little child. It can be that which wants that extra candy bar. It can be that which wants that extra money, or that beautiful sports car, or that brand new set of skis, or that whatever it is that you're lusting after. The ego, can be the place where that can manifest, and it's very important for you to understand that. The Kundalini will say, hey, don't do this or don't do that, but the ego will turn around and say, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that, and it will actually manufacture a voice that for the higher mental functioning context would sound like the Kundalini saying, oh, go ahead and do that, when in fact it's the exact opposite of what the Kundalini is telling the person to do. So you must adhere to the noble behaviors. Noble behaviors being love, discipline, forgiveness, compassion, consideration, service. These are very, very important qualities, and they're not just the surface meanings of these qualities. You need to go in depth just as, for instance, love and self-discipline. I mean, that's huge. Huge. You can write volumes of books just on love and volumes of books just on self-discipline. It can be hard to have Kundalini in an environment where nobody else is having it. If you're in the country of Kalorolai, and I'm just making up a country, Kalorolai here. So we live in the country of Kalorolai, and you're the only one in your social group that has the Kundalini, and you know enough not to say anything, but you don't know enough not to need to communicate. There's always going to be that need to share, that need for shared reference point, the need to be able to communicate in some way what a great thing that is happening to you, or what a difficult thing is happening to you. And we need to share that as individuals, and it's very difficult if you live in the country of Kalorolai that doesn't have anybody that is sharing that with you, or at least nobody that you know. And so in your loneliness and in your desperation to share this with somebody, get some sort of outside validation of what you're having, you begin to waver in your lack of egotistic expression. The ego will begin to provide outlets for your need to communicate, for your need to have outside validation of this inside process. All right. Looks like we have a caller, and I'm going to bring the caller on, and I appreciate what you wrote there, Miss Santara. Here we go. Hello, caller. How are you? From Dubai. Hello.
Yeah. Hi. How are you, Chrism?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good. I've been listening to you for a long time. I think I consider you as one of my teachers.
Well, I'm honored to be able to help you any way that I can.
Thank you. And like 2 weeks ago, I was meditating, and I saw a clip online where one of the ladies was talking about using your hand in a form of a mudra to cure yourself. So when I was lying down, I started playing with my hand, and immediately my hand started going at a supersonic speed, doing each type of mudras.
First, Ahmad, can you speak slower and a little bit louder, please? I'm losing your words.
Okay. So like 2 weeks ago, I was meditating, and I started playing with my hands, and immediately they started forming mudra signs all over my body.
Okay.
And it would go on each chakra, and it would start like going really, really fast. And I started getting out of body movement that was completely fast and doing mudras. And whenever I stopped the mudras, my body would start shaking, and I'll start jumping up. My legs would go all over to my head and start shaking, and I'll jump out of bed and start doing kung fu and tai chi and that kind of stuff.
That's all good. That's all good, Ahmad. That's Kundalini stuff there.
Yeah. And so my question is this: did the ancients used to use mudras for like connecting to the environment, or connecting to the weather, or connecting to the earth? Because I'm getting the impression that when I was doing this, I started hearing voices, and I was wondering, because it was telling me that the mudra sign that you're currently doing, it's healing your body to remove blocks, but you can also use it to connect to the earth grid, and use the mudras
to the what?
To use the mudra to the earth grid.
The astral? Okay. All right.
To the ley lines. I mean, earth grid.
Oh, I see. The ley lines.
The ley lines.
Yeah, not so much. These are entities, Ahmad, coming to you, trying to give you information that would have you use the mudras to do certain things within the mundane expression. And so you just need to give yourself into the grace of the Kundalini. You don't need to work mudras into ley lines or anything of that nature. Really, all that is that you need to do at this point, my friend, and I want to congratulate you, is to let the mudras and let the automatic body positions, or what we call kriyas, take place, and let them take place fully, and don't get in the way. Don't try to resist it. Don't necessarily listen to the words that you're going to be exposed to. Kundalini is a force of the divine, and you don't use a force of the divine to mitigate or to initiate specific programmed responses from the physical environment.
Okay.
You understand? Now, if the Kundalini wants you to do that, Ahmad, if the Kundalini wants you to do that, then she will do that. So let me give you an example. Early on in my process, I was exploring, like you are, I was exploring, different venues for me to do different things. And I had a client at the time that was getting acupuncture once a week. So I decided, hey, maybe I'll try some acupuncture. So I looked up what I wanted to do with the acupuncture. I looked up sacred acupuncture techniques, right? And I decided that, okay, over every chakra on my back, I'm going to put sacred geometrical designs with the needles. Mm-hmm. And so I found an acupuncturist that would do that. And as soon as I laid down on that table and he reached for that box of needles, the box of needles literally flew through the air, off the shelf, and landed on the floor. The acupuncturist was scared to death. So was his wife. But I knew what had occurred. And so the Kundalini has more than enough ability to manifest itself upon the physical environment. We don't need to be suckered in or tempted in to doing that ourselves. That's something that the ego would really, really, really want to do, to lift that car and fly it over the building or something of that nature. And it's just not appropriate within the Kundalini. And so it's doing mudras over ley lines. No. Unless you feel really, Ahmad, if you feel really compelled by the Kundalini to do that, then go ahead and do that.
Okay. Another thing that I found out is that we've been conditioned by the society, by religion, by our parents, and I find that whenever I do the mudra and I can ask my Kundalini, can I remove the religion conditioning in my body, it would normally go to the left side and it would do over 30 mudras, then immediately I start shaking. And when I wake up, it's like I find that my views have changed completely in terms of religion, in terms of my conditioning when I was young. And it's like I've come to realize that we have a conditioning in our auric field, and it's like the mudra is kind of fixing the grid around myself or removing the conditioning that I've been implanted over 20 years.
The mudra, Ahmad, is working for you. But not everybody has the mudras in the same way. And so you don't want to think that, because the mudras, are helping me in my process and helping me to change the way I think about certain things. It's not going to be that way for everyone.
Right.
It will not be that way for everyone. But it is that way for you. And I'm going to suggest that as you go to sleep and as those mudras keep coming into your fingers, that Kundalini is indeed changing the level of programming that you're experiencing. And so, I totally validate these experiences that you're having, Ahmad.
Okay. And another thing, last question, how do you differentiate if the messages coming is from Kundalini or from an entity? Because I think from your last program you talked about the content of the message that you're getting. If it's corrupted, then you know it's an entity. But how do you know if it's Kundalini? Is it something that you know out of your head?
I think I covered it then, but I'll cover it again right now. Is one of the main levels of discerning whether an entity, whether it's an entity or Kundalini, is the level of corruption that is being inserted into the instruction or the communication, whatever that may be. Kundalini will typically help the individual, even if that helpfulness is in the form of something that would be seen as painful. So we just use those kriyas that you're having. bring your knees up to your shoulders while you're lying on your back and stay there and let the body shake for a certain amount of time. Well, that's easy to say, but that's a lot harder to do. Let's just say that you have, let's just say that you're a little heavy in the abdominal area, and that heaviness is precluding you from bringing those knees to the shoulders. Well, there you go. There's the degree of difficulty that the Kundalini is suggesting for you. And so it's very important for a person to realize that it's not always going to be easy by the Kundalini. And just because the Kundalini may be suggesting something difficult does not mean that it's a negative discarnate entity. Whereas the negative discarnate entity will sometimes try to play to the person's ego, saying, "Oh, Ahmad, you don't need to be doing this kind of work. Oh my gosh, just do the mudra over the ley land and fly over the desert. It's just that easy, Ahmad." Oh, looks like Ahmad just got disconnected. Poor guy. Maybe he'll call back. But yeah, you don't need to give in to levels of self-aggrandizement or self-validation of a programming type from entity or from ego. And it's very, very, very strong in people that certainly, when something just comes and he only had this, he'd only had the Kundalini for 3 weeks now, folks. And that's pretty, let's see, this might be him right here. Hi, Ahmad, is this you?
Again, sorry.
Hey.
Yeah.
So you don't need to also, the way to tell the difference between the Kundalini and an entity or your ego is how much aggrandizement or how much validation from the public is being strived for from that voice. What is it saying? Is it saying for you to go to a doctor? Is it saying for you to start your own religion?
So far. It's like it tells me as if in my voice. It's like I know that. For instance, when it was telling me about the grid line, it's telling me all over the world as time goes on, people are going to start doing the mudras. Of few people will be doing that way, and what they would normally do is they would need to connect to the ley line so that they can raise the frequency, so that they can at least raise people's frequency so that they can start getting enlightenment or to start raising their Kundalini. That's the kind of message that I got. And I should keep out a watch for people who can do mudra so that at least we can communicate with them and I can tell them exactly that kind of stuff. But I don't know if it's my ego or if it's my Kundalini.
That would be more of an entity than the ego. Okay. So the entity is telling you how to do things that you don't really need to do. You don't need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can just trust that the Kundalini itself has the ability to put you in contact with those you need to be in contact with. You don't have to go out and do mudras over a ley line to get in contact with people. The Kundalini does this automatically. And so what the voices are teaching you is to bypass trusting the Kundalini, trusting the divine force that's awakening within you. Don't trust that. Here, do this mudra over this ley line, and this will attract people to you that have similar features, being developed within themselves. And this, I would say, to ignore that. That is not good advice.
Okay. Another thing is when I'm doing the mudras, I would start talking in terms of, let's say, for instance, I start clicking, and then it ends up becoming like a language.
You just need to slow down your speaking. You must be in a room where people are sleeping, right?
Yeah, so I'm currently keeping my voice low.
Yeah.
Okay.
So bring your mouth closer to the microphone, please.
Okay. So
and repeat what
when
you
I'm
just
doing
said.
The mudras. Okay. When I'm doing the mudras and it's kind of I'm into the flows, I would start clicking like producing a language that was not human.
Are you saying that you're speaking in tongues?
I don't know if it's tongues or if have you watched that movie Signs with Mel Gibson, and I think the aliens came over, and I think the aliens were talking in a clicking kind of voice, like.
That's actually a language from Africa.
Yeah.
And that's the Bushmen. The Bushmen of Africa have that language. So that's a terrestrial, earth-based language. And the Bushmen, they know about the Kundalini. They know all about the Kundalini. They have the Kundalini. It's accepted in their culture. So the clicking and type of language, that's a real deal. And you look up that language. Go when you finish up here, go to Google and put in the words Bushman clicking language, and you might even be able to get a YouTube with that. And that's the sound that you've been making.
Yeah, and it's not only that. There is another sound, like for instance, I will start doing, or I would start producing a tiger sound.
A tiger sound.
So that's a bit weird. Yeah, a tiger sound. Yeah, like I would go.
That's the Shakti Kundalini. That's all good. That's all good. Those are called vocal kriyas. And you may be making those sounds. The Bushman language would be a vocal kriya. The tiger language or the tiger sound would be a vocal kriya. The sound that you just made, that stuff would be a vocal kriya as well. This is all good, my friend. You're actually following, I think, a fairly clear and good trajectory with this, Ahmad.
Oh, thank you.
I've
been listening to your program for more than 2 years.
You should thank your Kundalini. Thank your Kundalini. That's the one who gets the thanks.
Thanks, Chrism. Appreciate your time and appreciate your videos. They've been quite a lot of help.
Well, congratulations to you. Congratulations to you, and thank you for calling in our program. I hope to hear from you again. Keep us apprised about how things are going.
Yeah, I have a last question. While meditating, I received a message. There was a small baby cheetah eating, grabbing my baby, and I woke up because I didn't want that. And then I went back to meditate, and then there was a bigger cheetah, and it came and it grabbed me. I don't know if it's something to do with Kundalini. So I accepted it when cheetah came back, and I said, okay, then come and take over. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either. I could hardly understand anything you were saying.
Sorry.
Can you say it again and say it slower, and really, really focus on speaking the words clearly?
Okay. So I was meditating, and in this, I received a vision of a cheetah. And the baby cheetah.
Of who?
A cheetah.
Who's our cheetah?
You know what? Cheetah is it's an animal in Africa.
It's a who?
It's a cheetah. You know a cheetah? It's an animal
like
in
a
Africa.
Cat, like one of the cats, the big cats.
Yeah, the fastest running cat here.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So in this dream, a baby cheetah came and grabbed my baby, and then I got scared and I woke up immediately, and then I went back to meditating.
You have a baby?
Yeah, she was born like last week.
Oh, congratulations to you and your family there. That's great. The baby cheetah grabbing the baby girl?
Yes.
Oh, that's good. That's an indication that she is also going to have the Kundalini that you're having.
Yeah, and then I went back to sleep, and this time there was an adult cheetah, and it came and grabbed me, and this time I didn't freak out. I let it grab me. Good.
You did well. Yeah, the big cheetah grabbing you, the papa, it makes perfect sense to me. The baby cheetah grabbing the little girl makes perfect sense to me. And I have seen over and over and over again how a parent will have the Kundalini, and a certain child born to that parent will also have the Kundalini. And in a way, I see that as the Kundalini itself bringing itself to those within a family unit so that that individual, that baby girl in this case, can have the teachings and the validation from her father, because father's also having the exact same experience.
All right.
So this is good. This is good. This is very, very good, Ahmad. Now, I want you to continue to do what you did. You did the right thing. You surrendered to the big cheetah coming in and grabbing you, and that's perfectly all right. That just means that Shakti is coming to you as the cheetah, and she has bitten you, so you have been bitten, right?
Yes.
And that means that your equation is going to really blossom now. And so do your very, very, very best to surrender as much as you can, but still keep discernment intact. Discernment is not disrespecting Shakti at all. Discernment is allowing your higher functioning mind to begin to understand what is Shakti and what is not Shakti. So if there is any kind of a self-validation or, bragging or bringing attention to yourself in some way, even a benign way, even, being this fantastic healer and just like healing the nations and all this, if you start seeing that type of interaction come towards you, walk away from that or deny that its expression through you. On the other hand, if you have the Kundalini come to you like as a cheetah and she grabs you and she wants to drag you to a certain tree and she wants you to meditate under that tree, well, your discernment will give you what kind of tree is that? What is the soil like? What environment am I in that she wants me to meditate next to this tree? This is where levels of discernment can serve you very, very, very well. It's not all about, looking for fearful types of things. It's also learning what the Shakti wants to teach an individual. Learning. And so I think you're doing well on this path thus far, Aman. And I want to congratulate you, and I want to congratulate your baby girl and your spouse.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that's very, very good. Go ahead.
Last question about healing. Should I do healing? Because I can literally use the mudras to heal myself or heal other people. Should I use this or not? Just concentrate.
Yes, you can do that.
Should I
but
use
always
the mudras?
Here's the thing. Yeah. You always acknowledge Shakti Kundalini before you do any kind of a healing. You don't try to make the blind see or the cripple walk. Okay? You let the Kundalini do the work. And you let the Kundalini determine what that person can receive or not. Because you cannot see the karma that you're working with that other person is carrying into this lifetime. And sometimes if you rob a person of their karma through the insertion of your will into their life plan, you can begin to assume the karma that they were supposed to have. You understand?
Yes. Actually, I've been getting messages not to do any healing in terms of going in their past life or anything like that. It's only to do with this life.
Well, that's
only
good.
to concentrate.
You
on
always
this
ask permission of the Kundalini first before you give a healing.
Yes.
You ask permission of the Kundalini in you, and you ask permission of the individual. And if you receive permission from Kundalini and permission from the individual, then you can put your mudras over that person's body. But you don't hold your hands up in the air and say, healing spirits of the universe, come into my hands and give this person. This is what Reiki people do. And this is not what you want to do. Do not do that.
Yes. Yeah. Because when I connect to it, my hand starts moving on its own, and I just get out of the way, and I just start thinking about other stuff. But my hand would do different movements.
Well, I get that. I get stepping out of the way to some degree, as long as you're not stepping out of the way so that an entity can come in. But I also understand that you need to acknowledge Kundalini first before any healing is given.
Yes.
This has to be by the blessings of Kundalini. Nothing else. You understand?
Yes.
Permission needs to be given from the Kundalini, and permission needs to be given from the individual receiving the healing, right?
Yes.
That's how it works. And, why don't you shoot a video of you doing the healings?
The mudras.
With the mudras. Huh?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking to do one, and then I can send it to you.
You send it to
when
me.
I start, because it starts slowly, and then it moves all the way, and I start doing Kung Fu, Tai Chi, I jump up, it goes all the way.
That's fine. Yeah.
And then
take that
when
video,
I put the
have your
on,
wife.
It goes all over the place.
Have your wife take the video and send it to me, and I'd be happy to correspond with you about that video.
Thank you.
Abilities such as that do come with the Kundalini. It's just that we need to make sure that we don't attach our ego to those skill sets.
Yes.
We don't begin to validate our Kundalini through the gifts rather than through the grace. Right?
Yes. And in fact, I've been told that it's just a tool that is currently here just for my transformation, and then it's going to go. So don't get attached to it.
That was really hard to understand.
No, I'm being told that the mudras and the forms is just a tool for my transformation, and I should not get attached to it. It's going to go away.
Good.
So
Excellent.
just use it as a tool. It's nothing to do with you.
This would be the Kundalini. Excellent stuff, Aman. You're doing great. You're doing very, very, very well. You should be very happy. And as soon as we're off the phone, you're off the phone with me, I want you to go into a prayer of thankfulness and gratitude to the Kundalini, okay?
Yes.
And also practice the safeties daily. Can you do that?
I've tried to do the safeties, and when I start to do the 5 Tibetans, I start feeling like vomiting, and so I stopped with
skip the 5 Tibetans. Yeah, you can skip the 5 Tibetans, Aman. Now you just want to do perhaps the pranayama, the tongue up, the various the eyes up, tongue up, fingers locked into the Gyan mudra, unless the other mudras want to come along. The forgiveness, the tolerance, the honesty, the truth, the helpfulness, the service, the kindness. These are the areas of the safeties that you can also begin to practice on perfect strangers as much as you can.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome, my friend, and congratulations to you and to your family.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right. Cheers. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And so there you have it, everybody. Aman was talking about the mudras, as you well heard. And these are the kinds of instructions that the Kundalini will give a person. Don't get too attached to the mudras. They're just there for your personal transformation. This is what I'm talking about. Now, doing the mudras over ley lines. First of all, you have to know what a ley line is. A ley line is a magnetic line, etheric magnetism that exists within certain physical, geographical structures of the land mass. As you know, and the ley lines will crisscross a country, and you indeed, I mean, people can ride the ley lines. The ancient shamans in Britain used to ride the ley lines on big, huge stones. They have these kinds of stones that if you Google the standing stones of Britain, well, you'll see these giant, flat, standing stones. And what would happen is the people used to ride on those stones on the ley line. And so anywhere that the ley line went, kind of like a highway, those people flying on those giant rocks would go. And there's actual pictures of that. I think I might still have a book with a picture of that on it. But that is a form of locomotion. That is also can be a form of communication as well. To use it as a way of contacting other people, maybe not. I would do as the Shakti in me suggests people do. It's not let the Kundalini bring your context to you. Let the Kundalini bring a teacher to you. If the material that I'm giving to you doesn't sound good to you at all, well, then let the Kundalini find another source of information for you. She will, unless she likes the information, then she'll just keep, stranding you as a prisoner here with me. Poor thing, poor people. Anyway, I'm going to come back to Santara. Hey, Santara, do we have any questions for this show?
Yes, we do, Chrism. I'm going straight over to get them now.
Straight over.
Can I just ask?
Yes.
Straight over. Can I ask a question about mudras? There's a lot of things.
First of all, I want to thank you for hovering. Thank you.
First of all, there's an awful lot written about mudras. And in a Kundalini context, I'm wondering, do you take away your mind? Like, do you not, say the previous known meaning of mudras, maybe they don't apply in a Kundalini context?
Agreed. I know one thing, though. I know that certain mudras have very, very profound healing effects. And the Kubera, Kubera, the Kubera mudra has a very, very strong healing effect. Matter of fact, when I was down in John of God's, the ETs that would possess John of God in a spiritual format would use the Kubera mudra quite often. Matter of fact, John of God came up to me and manually put my fingers in the Kubera mudra, which I had never explored the Kubera mudra ever at all. The only one I ever did was the Gyan mudra, and that's what helped bring the Kundalini up. But the Kubera mudra is where you put your ring finger and your little finger tips into the middle of the palm. Then you bring your thumb tip, your forefinger tip, and your middle finger tips all together, and that is Kubera mudra. And that, you can literally feel the frequency of your body change when you put that mudra on both hands and when you let it go. The frequency of the body will actually change when you use the Kubera in that specific format. It's very, very fascinating. So yeah, the mudras are actually, we should probably do a whole show on mudras.
Yeah, that would be, that would be interesting, Chrism. So your last two fingers, you put your baby finger and your ring finger down into the palms, and the remaining two fingers and thumb come together.
On the tips. Mudra. And the ring finger and the little fingers tips need to go in the center of the palm. That's the chakra. So basically you're joining the fingertip chakras of the ring finger and the little finger into the major chakra of the hand. And then you're bringing the three other chakras together, joining them all together, so that those chakras form a trinity, and that is what is occurring. It's a very powerful, powerful mudra. I can totally understand why John of God would have had me do that, because he asked me to assist him in some of the stuff that he was doing down there, the healings with eye operations on people and surgeries on people, which were all good. I mean, everybody survived.
Okay, good. Well then, this first question is about ailments, and there's a few parts to it, but it's a short question, so I'm going to ask this one first. Why Kundalini activated or awakening people, why do they suffer from ailments such as blood pressure or shingles, temporary blindness, or too much wax in the ears? Those were what were listed.
Okay.
So, thanks, Chris.
A lot of these ailments really aren't ailments at all. I mean, too much wax in the ears. I mean, please get a Q-tip. Have you ever heard of that? But the other thing is the Kundalini will hyper-express through organs of the body in ways that are profound, and some of those hyper-expressions would be the development of more earwax, which actually serves the person unless you're constantly sticking your finger in and compacting it over and over and over. You can get an ear syringe and fill it full of warm water, and you can melt that wax, and you don't have to go to the MD for any of that. So there's that. Sometimes the ailments that come to a Kundalini awakened or activated person are of a karmic origin, and that person must go through that discomfort and that pain in order to have that karma reach its redemption. What I have noticed with my Kundalini, however, is that I tend not to get sick. I tend not to receive an ailment, certainly not of a virological quality, except when she wants me to have it. I remember flying back with you, Amelia, from Mexico City and having that, what we all considered to be the Zika virus come on and just knock me down for 3 days. Knocked me down hard for 3 days. And typically I think, I got to have that. I got to experience that. I got to, I have that marker on my immune system now. Sometimes she wants the immune system to have a resonance with specific diseases so that the person isn't waylaid by that ailment at a time that is far worse than it would be at the current time. So, you'll be allowed to get sick sometimes, but what I have noticed is the immune response is increased. The immune response with a Kundalini awakened and activated individual is increased, and you can actually feel it going after and affecting the white blood cells in the body, and you can feel the Kundalini doesn't kill the virus. It just changes the way it interacts with your body in a way that is not so bad. It doesn't harm you in such a way. And so, with these types of scenarios, you're allowed to get sick. You're allowed to fall and hurt your leg. I mean, I was walking the dogs the other day, and they pulled me so hard they pulled me down, a hillside, and so my knee got scraped up and my leg got scraped up, and oh my gosh, what I turn around and say, oh, Kundalini, how could you have allowed that to occur? And the Kundalini would go, well, hey, watch your step next time, will you? Don't blame me. I'm not the one walking on 2 legs down there. I'm kidding about that part. But yeah. There's a certain level of personal responsibility when it comes to injuries as well. You can't just have the Kundalini activated or awakened within you and then blame everything on the Kundalini because, you may not agree with what it's doing with you. You have to have personal responsibility with this as well. And I think she teaches you that sometimes through painful lessons. But you still get taught. And was there another aspect to that question?
No, Chrism. I suppose the person specifically mentioned blood pressure, shingles. I've had shingles twice, actually, early on in my process. Blood pressure and temporary blindness. I mean, they're not injuries as much as conditions, I guess.
The shingles are a neurological virus.
Yeah.
And typically, if you get the shingles with the Kundalini, you're getting the shingles now so you don't get it later on. How far between were the 2 shingles outbreaks for you?
They were actually within a year. They came very close together, and the second one
you've never had them since, right?
Oh gosh, no, not at all. And
that's right.
There was a lot, yeah.
So the Kundalini basically took care of the shingles by having them express, and then changing, perhaps the virological structure within the shingles itself. It's a neurovirus, because the Kundalini travels the neural systems. And so, of course, if there's a neural virus that is waiting, under the skin in order to to break out at a specific period of stress within the individual's lifetime, well, yeah, the Kundalini is going to mitigate that. It's going to go straight in to that virus and express that virus, change the virus, and you never get to have that virus again, even though that virus may still be present within the body.
Yes, and it was in the first time it was in my body, and the second time was on the face, the two areas that you get shingles in. So, she went to two places. Yeah.
The body and the face?
Yeah, that's where you get them. Across.
Are there any other places?
No. You get it apparently on the chest area and right around to the back and on the face. And those are the two areas. But what about blood pressure and
blood pressure, high blood pressure?
Temporary blood. Yeah.
High blood pressure is normal for Kundalini people. I've got a blood pressure that goes through the roof. I don't even like
low
them
blood
to.
Pressure?
Yeah, my blood pressure is always high, and it's been high most of my life. And I don't even like them to take it anymore because they freak out. They don't understand that I have, and I can't tell them, well, I've got a special condition it's called Kundalini, and you go, what? So they don't get it. And so, I just kind of let it be. And, it's not super, super high, but it's borderline what they would call hypertension. And, that's a common Kundalini trait for people. Nothing to be afraid of. Don't need to take blood pressure lowering medications and things of that nature. You just need to understand that the Kundalini has you, and the Kundalini has you in such a way that it requires a certain level of higher blood pressure within the cardiovascular system for the Kundalini to do the work that it wants to do with you. It's a natural thing. With temporary blindness, that's another trait of the Kundalini. I would look at which eye it was that's being temporarily blinded. But it's temporary, which means that the Kundalini is going in, taking that mechanism offline for a little bit, making its adjustments, and then putting it back online after those adjustments have been made. And I do not consider any of these things as a sickness or an illness or a malady of any sort. These are just the initial adjustments and fine-tuning that the Kundalini will have to initiate on some of the people some of the time. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. Therefore, are you saying that once a person has Kundalini, all in inverted commas ailments that a person would get are not as they were before? They're not ailments. They're not illnesses in that sense.
No, they're not. They're not. But it's easy for people to mistake that for an ailment or a sickness. Yeah. It's easy because, all of a sudden you got shingles. And it's like, well, where the heck did this come from? Or all of a sudden one eye goes blind. You go, well, where the heck did this come from? You just need to do your research with Kundalini and to realize that these are upgrades rather than downgrades. Excuse me. See if I have anything to drink here. Of course not. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm going through at the moment a heart phase again, which would have had me running to the ER, rapid heartbeat, pressure, all this sort of thing. I'm very thankful to know that it's normal.
Oh, no. No, for you it's not normal. Oh my God, I think you should run to the ER. Have them take about 4 or 5 core temperatures with a thermometer just to be safe.
Yeah. I better move on, Chris, because we haven't that much time today. And this next question it's about a dream, and the person asks, what does seeing red stretch marks on my stomach in a dream mean? What does it mean? And this is a woman. Red stretch marks on the stomach in a dream. That's all I was asking.
If it was a man, I could be a lot more clear. Well, red stretch marks, healing of the stretch marks. If the person have a child, if they don't have a child and then they see red stretch marks, that they can indeed be looking at becoming pregnant. I mean, it's just not a very well sculpted question because, there's no background for the individual. But red stretch marks are certainly, if you're seeing red within a dream sense and you have Kundalini activated or awakened, and we'll assume that this person does, that the Shakti is communicating specific information about the first and second chakra for the individual to have a look there. You might look at certain levels of blood poisoning allow for certain levels of red raised veins to view. You might look at, once again, the pregnancy issue, the childbirth issue, things of that nature. So it's such a broad question, that can be answered many, many different ways. I would ask for a more specific aspect to those red stretch marks. And who is this person? Okay. Do they have Kundalini or don't they? Was this sent to you privately?
Yes, it was. I will ask the person to expand for next week. Chrism, your chair is really bad.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It's really loud.
I
okay.
understand.
The next question again is about an ailment. It's somebody saying that they are suffering from an ailment for the past 3 days, coughing, a cold, and pain all over my body. Can you please advise? A Kundalini person. I read out what I get as they come, though. These are another private one, Chrism. So, I mean, you've kind of covered that a bit, haven't you, already?
I would go see your primary care physician. If you're vomiting, see what it is you're eating, and see, go, for these basic issues. You can either just let it run its course. It sounds like that could be a virus. Let it run its course. Keep yourself hydrated. Keep your electrolytes strong. Keep your vitamin C intake strong. Stop drinking caffeine. Stop drinking or partaking of processed sugars or processed flours. Stay away from GMO material. That's genetically modified organisms, also called GMO. Try to eat as organically as you can. Try to raise your alkalinity. Drink the essentia water, or look at some broad green leafy vegetables. Look at carrots. Look at carrot juice. If you can find some freshly pressed, not canned, but freshly pressed carrot juice, then I would have 8 ounces of that every morning. Like I said before, if you have the Kundalini and you're sick, well, the Kundalini is allowing you to have that sickness. You're not having it accidentally. And so there's a certain level of upgrade that is being given into the immune system that allows you to have that. And the Kundalini wants you to have that upgrade. And so I would go through the illness, have the illness, acknowledge the illness, acknowledge that the Kundalini is allowing you to have the illness, and to find some peace and serenity that way, as well as the other suggestions that I made. Over.
Okay. Thank you, Chrism. Is it normal to feel mental insanity, traumas, racing thoughts, heartbeat, palpitations when doing chakras stroke Kundalini?
When doing chakras what?
Chakras - Kundalini.
Yes, it's normal to have those experiences, indeed. Over.
Okay.
Can you still hear my chair?
Well, you just stopped.
I've got this candle. I've got this candle burning next to me, and it has a wooden wick, and so it snap, crackles, and pops. Just in case that was what you're hearing.
Just as you were speaking there, now I could hear. What was that? Was that a candle?
I think that would be the candle. Yeah, because I've been holding fairly still in the chair today.
Oh, well, you need to listen. There's some strange and interesting noise. It's not your typical chair noise. It's quite harsh.
Can you still hear it right now?
Yeah, just heard it there as you spoke that last sentence.
Yeah, it's not
quiet
me,
again.
Yeah, not me.
Okay. So the next questions come from the group Chrism, and it was, what is exactly an enlightenment? Is it the movement of knowing himself and seeing his own light, or what is it?
Enlightenment is, literally, it is the enlightenment. It is the in, light, L-I-G-H-T, in, in, light, in, ment. And it is that quality within an individual that begins to light up the individual from the inside out, connecting that individual to divine attributes. And this is enlightenment. Kundalini is a level of enlightenment. Over.
Okay, thank you. The next question is as follows. This is, I want to read this one, yes. Yesterday night, the man I am dating recently had a dream of a snake where he was chasing the snake with others, and the snake turned into a four-legged and ended up dying. What does this mean? Thank you.
A four-legged what?
A four-legged, it just says. So whether it means a four-legged creature or a four-legged snake, which I don't know.
Yeah.
It grew four legs maybe and ended up dying. Probably not enough information.
Right.
It's the person who asked has Kundalini and is dating a man who had this dream.
Okay. I would actually look at the wisdom of dating that individual within the Kundalini context. I would look at maybe altering that equation a bit. I don't want to say stop dating them, but on the other hand, I'm being guided to say stop dating that individual. So there you have it.
Okay.
Over.
Okay, Chrism.
So Mary Jean says she's hearing my candle. Emma, I don't know if Emma's hearing the candle. But it's snap, crackle, popping. I wondered if it would be heard today. So my apologies if that is.
Yeah, that must be it if you're being still. It's very loud, actually. Okay, so the next question is about meditation, Chrism. I have heard that if you do not meditate when having Kundalini, the progress will be slow, and it's better to meditate even if it's painful. And this person goes on to say they had a top-down awakening, and the energy is always in this person's head. So they have not meditated for a long time, and they're just wondering what to do in regard to meditation. Should they not?
Typically, if you meditate and you're getting a strong headache, then I say back off of the meditation. If you're praying and you get a headache, then I say back off of the prayer. If you're being devotional and you're getting a headache, I say back off of the devotion. Because, the body can only take a certain amount at a certain time. Then it needs time to process the energy that's already coming in. And so if that person has had a top down and they want to try meditating again, but they haven't really moved that top down, like say from the 7 to the 6 or the 6 to the 5th, well, then they need to focus on helping that energy, inviting that energy to continue down into the lower chakras. And meditation is not always the way to do this. Meditation, like hard work, would be a better way to do that. Hard work and creative hard work would be a better way to move that energy down. And if you can turn that creative hard work into a form of a working hard meditation, so much the better. But if you're just doing a stillness meditation and expecting to move the energy down, well, that's going to do the opposite thing. That's going to move the energy up. And so you need to do the meditations that correspond with the first through third chakra rather than try to move it down by doing meditations that deal with the 6th and the 7th that move the energy up. Person might want to focus on apana, A-P-A-N-A, which is the releasing, the downward movement of the energy rather than the upward movement of the energy.
Thank you, Chrism. The next question, a person, I won't read it all, but the person is having difficulty reading since their Kundalini awakened. And this person used to read, an awful lot beforehand. So it's almost impossible for them to read books regularly or to complete anything since the awakening. So this person is curious if there's an explanation or any guidance you can give regarding that.
Yeah. This is fairly common amongst Kundalini people. You won't be able to read books, but even more so, you won't be able to partake of mundane-based information sources anymore. Even, unless it's like some sort of a fiction book or something of that nature that's just there for entertainment. That's one thing. But if you're learning something, she will begin to control where you receive information from, and typically your book readings will go way down. I mean, I used to read all kinds of books, and I can't remember the last book I even purchased, let alone read. So yeah, your reading of books will go down severely, especially if you've been searching, doing the metaphysical search, and you got every Greg Braden book there is, or every other kind of book that deals with things that are somewhat out of the box. Yeah, your reading will go down. It is natural. Nothing is wrong. You're just going to save a lot of money from purchasing books because she won't let you read them. Now you need to go into your practice. Now you need to go into your safety. Now you maybe need to do some writing rather than reading. So to begin to spread whatever information that your Kundalini is giving you to others that they may be helped. So losing the ability to read or to focus that way is normal. It's natural. It's nothing to worry about. Over.
Great. Thank you, Chrism.
Thank you.
The next question. I am in perfect health, though I hear crackling sounds coming from my face and my forehead. Is this common in Kundalini? And this person is also seeing floaters and lights around them. After all the physical examinations that they had recently, everything is well in a physical way. So could Kundalini be reshaping their face, they want to know?
Well, either that or they have a crackling candle next to them that everybody seems to be able to hear.
I was thinking the same thing.
But the Kundalini can reshape the face. It can reshape the skull. It can reshape the color of the eyes. It can reshape your musculature. It can reshape your bone structures. I mean, there's no part of the human body that the Kundalini can't begin to reshape or reform if it sees the need for that to occur. So that's normal. As far as being in perfect health and having that happen, well, you've just gotten rid of the obvious, and now you're able to look into that which is outside of the box, and you can look at that as a Kundalini input upon your physical structures, and just surrender to that. Surrender to it. She's not doing anything that isn't helpful. Over.
Thank you very much. And the same goes for the lights and the floaters.
The lights and the floaters, that's all normal. That's all normal. I still have those to this day. I mean, they stay for a long while. And so, yeah, you'll have these itinerant floating suns is what I call them. They're little tiny pinpoints of brilliant light in different colors that just kind of float of their own accord across your visual field. It's perfectly normal. It's all right. And seeing the lights around themselves is also all right. It's perfectly normal.
Thanks.
Don't get off on it. Don't self-aggrandize over it, but just realize that it's normal, and don't be afraid of it. It's normal. Go right on ahead into your equation. It's perfectly fine. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. I find I can't fake a conversation anymore, and I get headaches when attempting to converse or understand conversations that are empty. How do I honor what I feel and yet not offend another being that's on a level of understanding that is empty?
Well, you come at it from a level of compassion and kindness and consideration, and you realize that everybody has something to teach, whether they're awakened or not. We can learn something from everyone, even if it's just that maybe we don't want to have this conversation. You go ahead and through your kindness and your consideration and your compassion, you listen to them and you try to perhaps move the conversation in a way that is more meaningful, that is more authentic, that is more, getting back to what Elizabeth said, the authentic expression of emotion. And so if you find yourself inside of a vapid conversation that is lacking in any kind of constructive consideration, well, you can begin to move that conversation into a way that is not meaningless. You can begin to insert meaningful, authentic, conversational information into that conversation. And it's not just them speaking to you and you getting a headache because, it's not meaningful to you. You can begin to commit change upon that conversation as well. You can provide authentic, meaningful conversation and information into that conversation. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. And the last question, because we're coming to the end, just this person watched one of your videos. They were going through a period of sadness and anxiety. And on the YouTube video, you said to become the observer when the emotions are amplified. Can you speak about how to do that in a practical way?
In a practical way, when you feel the extreme sadness or grief come upon you, you take a step back, literally inside your emotional body. You take a step back and you realize that I am a Kundalini person. I am a Kundalini soul. Half of me is with divine. The other half of me is with the physical. I'm going to step back into the divine right now, and I'm going to let this emotion calm down. I'm going to let it calm down. I'm going to observe it. I'm going to realize that I have a choice in how severe I need this emotional expression to become. And based upon your choices with that and the level of discernment that you have with your authentic emotional body, you can mitigate how much of that sadness you need to express. But it goes back to what Elizabeth and Lalanya said earlier. There is a time and a need for authentic emotional expression to be honored. You have got to honor that sometime. But by honoring it, you don't need to be taken over by it. The ego can have a way of really wanting to weep and wail and scream and shout at a perception of sadness or injustice or some form of emotional stimulus. And you can have the authentic expression without letting the authentic expression have you. See, that's the key. You can have the authentic expression, but you don't let it take you over. You have the release, but you don't let it take you over. And I'm going to ask you if there's any last words that you would like to say, Santara.
No last words, Chrism. Thank you. Less than 2 minutes to go. See everybody next week.
Yep, we've got about a minute left, and I just want to thank everybody for coming. We are on the Facebook network at Kundalini Awakening ! We are on the Yahoo network at Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at Yahoo Groups. We are on the Google Plus network at Kundalini Awakening ! Welcome any and all of you to that are listening to this that aren't already communicating with us in those areas to come by and say hello and maybe participate in our community. And I'd like to thank all the callers coming in, Rosemary, Santara, Elizabeth, and listening, and another person that just dialed in. Last 30 seconds, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who is listening, and I look forward to speaking with you again next week. Thank you.